Hey everybody, Jazzy here. This is part 2 of my series of beginner guides for your first few seasons in Don't Starve Together. So let's jump right back into it with Wilson. Now, autumn is your first season and it lasts 20 days, and you're gonna want to stay on the move for at least the first half, just eating on the go and mapping out as much of the world as possible before you pick a place to settle down. One important biome to discover is the swamp, because it contains reeds, which are an immovable resource. You should always wear armor while moving through here because it contains a lot of dangerous mobs such as merms and spiders. The biggest threat is tentacles, which pop out of the ground and attack you. Try to stay constantly on the move. Listen for low rumbling sounds and look for bubbles in the ground. If a tentacle starts to pop up, just move away as quickly as possible. They hit twice for a total of 68 damage, so you really don't want to get stun locked by one. But while you're here, be sure to collect at least 8 reeds so that you can pre-build a bird cage. The eye bone for Chester usually appears on the brick road. The swamp is a weird location for it, but not unheard of. Chester is an important follower in the early game because he provides an extra 9 slots of inventory space, which will help you immensely when you are out gathering resources. Around day 7 or 8, you'll get your first hound wave. Now, these early waves are not a huge threat, and you always have the option of just, throwing on armor and tanking the hounds in low numbers. But if you want to kite them, just dodge their first bite, and then you can hit them twice before they bite again. Or with a fresh handbat, just dodge one bite, then swing 3 times to kill them. Try to keep pre-building structures for your base whenever you get the chance. If you want to throw down an alchemy engine to craft something, try to prototype multiple things. It'll get you some easy sanity back and save on inventory space. Right here, I am pre-building a bird cage. This structure is important because it'll allow you to feed extra meat to a bird in exchange for eggs and cook a ton of additional crockpot recipes. On that note, as long as we're stopped, I'm gonna burn a few trees and chop them for charcoal so that I can pre-build a crockpot. This is one of the most important structures in the game. With it, we're gonna cook dishes and get the most out of our foods. In a game called Don't Starve, it is no surprise that cooking meals would be central to your survival strategy. If you have spider glands, then you can burn a few extra pieces of twigs or petals for ash and prototype some healing salves. They're not an amazing healing source, but they won't spoil, so it never hurts to carry some around in case of an emergency. And remember, you can just as easily heal with the glands. They won't be as strong, but you'll save on some rocks. Your choice. As before, try to pre-build your next alchemy engine immediately after hammering it. Otherwise, the materials will take up 3 extra slots in your inventory. Just make a doodad, a cut stone, and 2 boards, then pre-build, right-click, and move along. Tall birds are another good source of large meat, and you can find them in the rocky and mosaic biomes on the surface. You can sneak in 2 hits between pecks, but they hit hard, so don't forget the armor. Tall bird eggs are nice because they're one of the only food items in the game that never spoil, so you can definitely hoard these eggs if you want. Just cook them before you eat them for extra hunger. Now, closer to winter, we will be setting up some farm plots, so start collecting seeds on the ground as you see them dropped by birds. Planted seeds will grow year-round, but they won't be dropped by birds in winter, so if you plan to farm, then it's good to collect around a stack of seeds before autumn ends. Keep an eye out for these set pieces with marble statues. Usually you can find one with clockworks. Now, clockworks drop gears, which are needed for ice boxes, and you'll definitely want to build some for your kitchen. Fighting the knights is fairly straightforward. After every headbutt, they will retreat until their next attack. If you get in before they retreat, you can hit them 2 to 3 times before they headbutt again. If they growl at you, then they're giving you an extra couple hits too. If you're using this time to fight shadow creatures, you will likely meet the Terror Beak, a more dangerous version of the crawling horror that moves faster, has more HP, and bites much harder. Don't go for that first attack before the bite unless you are really confident in your kiting skills. Instead, just wait for the first bite and then swing. If you find yourself in a fight with both versions of shadow creatures, try to lure the terror beaks away and kill them first because they are much more of a threat. Now, this is the Deciduous forest filled with birchnut trees. Inside this biome is the statue of Glommer, which is where it will appear at full moon. At the base of the statue is a free pan flute, which you should definitely take. Pan flutes can be crafted from mandrakes, but it's nice to have an extra flute handy in the early game, just in case you need to quickly put a horde of spiders or hounds to sleep. and they will be very useful in boss fights. Also in the Deciduous forest you will find the Pig King, usually in a village with other pig houses. During day and dusk, you can trade trinkets and meat with Pig King for gold nuggets, making him the easiest renewable source of gold. He won't take monster meat, but he will take eggs, so you can convert monster meat via a bird cage and bring the eggs to him. Stale meat is definitely worth trading away before it spoils. Watch out for these pig torches. The guardian pigs are very tough to fight and can easily overwhelm you, so just stay clear if you spot one early on. If you're trying to mark connecting wormholes on your map, you can craft cheat markers such as backpacks, signs, and traps. Just leave one on either side of a wormhole and you can quickly see which ones connect just by looking at your map. In one of the forests you will find a few mandrakes in the ground. They are killed by daylight, so if you pick one during the day, they will instantly die and you can pick them up off the ground. They're non-renewable unless you're fighting Kloss, so I'd recommend not picking them at dusk or night, because they'll chase you around and are easily killed. You do not want a pig or spider eating one. Eventually the spider dens in your world will start to upgrade. If you see a den with more than one layer, take care to lure spiders away from the den before fighting them. If you hit a spider within range of a tier 2 or tier 3 den, then any spiders still inside will emerge as warriors, which can do a leap attack at you and are much harder to kill.
Why are you running? Why are you running?
On night 11, you'll get your first full moon. If you have Chester, then you can upgrade him to Shadow Chester by placing one piece of Nightmare Fuel in each of his 9 slots. Right here, I'm tanking a little bit of damage from a spider just until I can convert Chester. If I hit one, then all the other spiders will attack, and I don't want to be overwhelmed while I'm doing this. Nightmare Chester has 3 extra inventory slots, which are very valuable to have in the early game. I didn't do it in this playthrough, but the other thing you can do during full moon is to grab Glommer's flower from the statue. This will make Glommer a follower and you can bring it with you. Glommer has a nice sanity aura, plus it occasionally produces Glommer goop, which makes for good fuel. You can also eat Glommer goop for a ton of health at the cost of sanity. If you kill Glommer, then you will instantly summon Krampus, and if you're hunting for a Krampus sack, then you might want to consider doing it. Glommer will then respawn on the next full moon.
I'm sorry.
If you're mapping the world around the edges, then you will likely finish around the middle of autumn. Now is a good time to pick a spot to start a base. Now, the subject of base location is a guide in and of itself, but for an early game base, you want to first consider the location of resources that cannot be relocated, such as reeds, cactus, Pig King, and the Oasis. Walrus camps are going to be important in the first winter, so I would recommend picking a spot that is in reasonable proximity to them. It just so happens that in our world, the Dragonfly Desert is right next to the Triple Mac Tusk biome, so I'm gonna camp there for now. Deserts are an excellent choice of winter base for a number of reasons. Cactus is a year-round food source that restores sanity. Tumbleweeds can be farmed for twigs and grass when saplings and tufts stop growing, and the lava pools around Dragonfly can be used as heat sources for your thermal stone. In the Oasis Desert, you will also have Volt Goat herds for meat, and you'll be close to the Oasis if you want to continue basing there in summer. Once you pick a spot, throw down your alchemy engine and lightning rod. Then you can start to drop down your resources and free up your inventory space. Then we can start to farm. Prototype your first garden rigamajig and pick a few tiles to start cultivating for farm plots. Pick another spot for your kitchen and set down your first crockpot. You will also want to pick a nearby spot for a fire pit for light, heat, and cooking. For farming, you're going to want a shovel and a hoe. If you have the gold to spare, try making the gold version of these tools because they will last much longer than the flint versions. Set down your ice box near the crock pots and throw all of your foods inside. You will likely need to reposition the ice box once you make more crock pots, which is fine, they're not too expensive to rebuild. Now dig up the detritus from your farm plots and start to plow the soil. I like to use the snapping tills mod for hoeing because it makes neat grids, but it's not necessary. Just plow freehand if you like. Then plant some seeds so they can start to grow. The new farm system is great because you can fit a ton of crops into your farms, they will grow all year round, and provide you with a ton of food. The more you tend and water these crops, the more seeds they will provide you when harvested. You want to start building up your collection of seeds now so that you can continue to grow the specific plants that you want to harvest. At this point, you can spend the rest of your autumn setting up your kitchen, gathering food and resources from nearby biomes, and prepare for first winter on on day 21. In the next video, we will talk about all the remaining preparations needed in the season so that we can be as ready as possible for the cold, and then get started on winter fighting and surviving. Hope you're finding these guides useful, and see you next time.